NPA has been granted an order by the court to seize the dairy farm that is linked to the Gupta alleged corruption. This after the intervention of the new Union SAFTU. Now on the line is Zwelinzima Vavi, who is the General Secretary of SAFTU. Mr. Vavi, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Now, can you tell us about your involvement in ensuring the farm's assets were seized by the NPA?
Well, as you know, South Africans have been expressing their disgust, their anger at the fact that there are so many stories in the public arena which is not being acted upon. From the time when the public protector issued the State of the State Capture report, followed by a host of emails from the media, and as well as which was then followed, I must say, by the public confessions by the leadership of Eskom, of Transnet, and there was evidence on the issue that the Estina farm that received 500 million was basically some scheme to just loot money. It's a money laundering scheme. It's money to siphon resources from the state into the hands of private individuals. As you know, 30 million of that amount found its way to the Gupta wedding in Sun City. We were angry against this. What we did as SAFTU was to pull all of those cases together. We laid a charge in the police station on the 3rd of October. We confronted the NPA with concrete evidence to say, unless you act, we're taking you to court. And so when they were reluctant, we said to them, unless you act, we will ourselves apply in court for the order to annexure the assets of these companies. And when they saw the type of evidence we had, I guess they had no choice. But it was not just about that. Abrahams was very reluctant. We found a very good citizen in the form of advocate, Knox Mulele, who moved and got the court order on the 15th of October. The results are now beginning to show.
Now, speaking of the results beginning to show, what are you hoping to achieve as a way forward? Because, yes, now this court order has been granted and the assets are going to be seized. But can we expect to see this trickling down to other names that have been mentioned as part of state capture, for example?
There are two things we're hoping for. One, we are so excited that the asset forfeiture unit have now gone to court and get the initial three companies on the fire, which is Eskom in its partnership with Mackenzie, Trillion, and now Estina in the Free State. What we hope is that the Hawks will now use that evidence against all of the individuals implicated. The executives of Eskom, Transnet, the executives of Trillion, Estina, and Mackenzie, and we think that those people must wear orange overalls in no time. Beyond that, we're excited to hear that the Hawks, as well as the asset forfeiture unit, have gone beyond the single billion. They are now chasing about 50 billion rands that have been looted from the state by this network of crooks that have been feeding on the carcass of our purse, the public purse. We are so excited, in particular by the news that this is going to be followed by arrest of high-profile politicians and individuals. This is what South Africa has been waiting for, and we're quite happy that we're moving into this direction. As I was joking somewhere, we seem to be having yet another Christmas in a matter of 6 months after we celebrated the last one.
Now, speaking of that early Christmas, but also just focusing on the point that you make of being on the right track in terms of looking into this issue of state capture. Just finally, in terms of what we saw today happening with Eskom and government being serious about seemingly curbing corruption, do you think we're on the right track and government is finally coming to the fore with regards to that? Absolutely.
Of course, it will sound so ludicrous if they were not to act in the face now of this assets forfeiture unit action against Trillion, Mackenzie, Estina, in partnership with the current board, in partnership with Transnet and the crooks in the Free State. And so we're quite happy that they've acted. And there can be nothing more pleasing to go to see South Africa giving signs that we may be normalizing issues. We were about to move against Eskom and Mercedes. We were about to move on them in court and get them declared as a delinquent board. And we're happy that there's no need to waste workers' money in doing that again, because they are now gone. Bye-bye to all of them.
Mr. Vavi, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on SABC News. That was SAFTU General Secretary, Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi.